Setting up the SRX600 for motion ID tags. Connect via the USB. Just have to click on the icon here. And then make sure you log on. You will get a message like this, successfully logged on. Press OK, and now you should see the active user is USB and the SRX mode is set up. If you see data log scan, make sure that you push on the setup mode icon here, the hammer and pliers. To make any changes to an SRX600, you must delete all data on board. So we go to the data download icon marked here, and it only has 2 battery statuses, so we can just press initialize. It'll give us a warning and say yes, and now you have no data on board and your USB and setup. Go to SRX Live. If it gives you this message, just press yes. And now you can see SRX connected. Active configuration is number 1. So first off, make sure that you have the proper code set index. The way SRX600s are done is that they're listed in generally have 3 code sets on board. And number 1, and we'll just take a little look-see here, 1, 2, and 3. So we'll take a look at 3. That should be low-tech 4. And there's 521 codes, and number of sensors allowed is none. Next one up is a very old version, low-tech 2, 170 codes. And it was 1994 it was made. And finally, last but not least, is the year 2000 code set, which we're going to use today. And there's 212 codes. It was made in May 2000. Next section is scan time. Always set your scan time to be about half a second longer than tag burst interval. In this case, there's some tags there for 6.5 seconds, so I just put it as 7 seconds. And then you make sure that you uncheck enable total scan time. You do not want that, as the receiver will shut down after its first scan cycle. Alright, enable GPS clock. It's always a good feature if you have a clear view to the sky. And enable GPS positions, also a good feature, especially if you're manually tracking with a clear view to the sky. It gives you the location of the receiver. So make sure that you send this to the receiver. Then go to frequency and channels. This is going to be a radio frequency. I'm going to key in 150.320. I'm going to put channel number 1, see if that'll take. Now I'm going to make sure that I don't utilize sensor on this. You must use ID only, because the transmitter changes its code value whether it's inactive or active. It'll give you a lower code value if it's in its active state, and then it'll add 100 values. In other words, if you have tag number 7, for instance, it'll show you 107 if it's inactive. And now I'm going to send this over, so we have to add it to the side here. And now I have a secondary channel, and it's 149.360, and I'm going to do the same. This time select 2 as my channel, see if that'll take, and then I'm going to add it to the frequency list. Most important, it's sending it to the receiver, and it should turn green again. Alright, now since I'm only manually tracking, I'm not going to use an antenna switch box. Here at this line here says using antenna switch box. Make sure that's unchecked. And now I'm going to bring my gain up. Notice I've changed it again, it turns orange. I'm going to bring my gain up to about 60. 62 will do. It's really arbitrary. And then I'll make sure that I send it to my receiver. That means that main port, the front port of your receiver, is set now, acquiring a gain of 62 out of 100. Next up, make sure that you have no filters, and then a noise threshold of 10 and millisecond echo acoustic tag, so we have no worries about that. And then make sure that enable pulse width and signal strength deviation is unchecked. Right? And finally, go to Sensors and make sure that the right window has nothing there, unless you have actual sensors on your transmitters. In this case, even though the motion sensor is active, it will just give you a different code value. So we press OK, and now we should be ready to go. So we can start our data log. And as you're going to see, once I turn on the VRT, it's going to give us, that's virtual real time, the frequency it's on, the gain value that it has. This AHO represents the port on the front of the receiver, and then it's just going to switch from channel 1 to 2 and be monitoring as you're flying or traveling in your boat, and you'll have GPS recorded with any IDs that you pick up. Just make sure that your GPS antenna is attached and has a clear view of the sky.